Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 5:07 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. J.D. Vance is set to debate against goofy Tim Walz tomorrow night in New York. That's going to be great. It's did you hear Scott Jennings on CNN? The guy, the long-suffering conservative commentator on CNN. He says all sorts of great things. I love Scott Jennings, actually. He makes for a lot of great clips for us. Here he is on CNN this weekend talking about what a buffoon Tim Walz is.
Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school. He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume, and his answer was essentially, me no understand words good. I mean, he's a buffoon. he's on a free ride for running under Harris. He gets very little press. They don't let him talk to the press for a reason. I want one thing out of this debate. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and get under his skin. He has legendary hot, short temper. A lot of governors do, but apparently he does. I want J.D. Vance to go out there and have him explain why he is denigrating J.D. Vance's story. Small-town America ends up making something better out of his life, which is something we should want for every kid.
Yeah, he's right about this. So Walz, remember, has previously said that I taught all these kids and not one of them got into an Ivy League school. What? So that's supposed to be some sort of negative commentary on J.D. Vance, who made it? Kind of sounds like a commentary on you, Tim Walz. What kind of teacher were you? Not one of them could succeed. I love that. That's so funny. Tim Walz is a buffoon. Me no understand words good. Oh, Walz. Tim Walz went to the Michigan game this weekend, and while he was there, he got booed. Listen. Those are really good boos, too. Boo! Boo! There's video, actually, of Walz this weekend flipping off somebody who yelled Trump 2024 to him while they were in the crowd. And Walz just pops up his middle finger at the guy and then drops it back down like nobody would notice. Like nobody at all would notice that he had just done this. Here is the Michigan fan screaming, Trump 2024. Listen to this.
Oh, yeah. Trump 2024, baby!
Middle finger up in the air. All of a sudden, Walz puts his middle finger, like he's waving to everybody, middle finger to that guy, and then he just keeps waving casually. Remarkable. President Trump went to the Alabama game this weekend, Georgia at Alabama. And this is the kind of reception he got. Going wild in Tuscaloosa. Lots of fist pumps from Trump. The fight, fist pump. He's doing a lot of those, a lot of waving to the crowd. It was sad, though, because they had bulletproof glass up around the guy. They had to have – he was in a box, but they put up all of the bulletproof glass to protect him from being shot at the Alabama game. Just crazy. It's just crazy. The New York Times has had a story up this weekend about all of this, which was so preposterous. It's totally typical for the New York Times. It's so idiotic. Headline, Trump says he's in danger. So why did he seek out the embrace of 100,000 fans? I'm sorry, what? Trump says he's in danger, so why is he still campaigning for president? Is that what you are saying? So he's supposed to stop his presidential campaign because leftists keep trying to kill him? Isn't he letting them win if that's how he operates? Oh, I better not go outside anymore. He's still going out. He's still campaigning. He didn't drop out of the campaign. He's still campaigning. He went to Tuscaloosa. Why is he seeking out the embrace of 100,000 fans if he's actually in danger? Why does this sound like a conspiracy theory? Why does it sound like the New York Times is saying he's not actually in danger? If he was, he wouldn't be going out to a stadium full of 100,000 fans. Subheadline: After 2 assassination attempts, the former president seems to be relishing the dangers of his job. Some at the Georgia-Alabama football game wondered if his appearance was wise. He's relishing the assassination attempts. Says, are you serious? The New York Times, which, last I checked, it's supposed to be the leading newspaper in the United States of America, perhaps around the planet. The old gray lady is saying that Donald Trump is relishing the assassination attempts. And this article is still online right now. Not a single editor in that newsroom said, maybe we should take down the article that says Donald Trump relishes all of the people attempting to assassinate him. Chicken tenders and cynicism were flying through the air, the New York Times says. It was Saturday night in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and former President Donald J. Trump was in the bowels of Bryant-Denny Stadium at the University of Alabama, surrounded by screaming football fans. He began hurling boxes of chicken at them. His aides filmed his every movement, uploading the footage to social media. Why are you even including that detail? His aides uploaded videos of the president campaigning. Yes, that's what campaigns do. One popular pro-Trump influencer reposted a video of Mr. Trump traipsing through the concourse. This is a judgmental piece, obviously. They don't write. Would they ever write traipsing about Tim Walz? Would the New York Times ever describe Kamala Harris as traipsing? No, traipsing is designed to be a pejorative in this context. He's traipsing through the concourse, they write. There have been 2 assassination attempts. They cite the pro-Trump influencer. There have been 2 assassination attempts on this man in the past 3 months, and he walks into a stadium full of 100,000 people like a boss. Next week, he's returning to the site where he was shot. Total badass, says this post. It was a perfect encapsulation of the way, the New York Times now, of the ways in which Mr. Trump and those around him have plied the plots against his life for political benefit. He's exploiting the assassination attempts against him for his own political benefit, says the New York Times. What's a man to do? You can't even tell people that people are trying to kill you. The New York Times is very judgmental about this. The shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, the Times continues, which left 2 men dead, including the gunman. Well, yeah. The Secret Service snipers shot the gunman, shot Thomas Crooks. What a weird way to describe that. The event left 2 men dead. Corey Comparator was murdered in cold blood at that July 13th event. And President Trump was shot in the head. The Times says it was a terrifying event that was rewatched endlessly in the era of social media streaming. And it was shocking how close a second would-be assassin got to the former president weeks later at his golf club in Florida. These near misses have rattled the country and stirred memories of dark chapters in American political history. Yeah, like every other time a Republican or a Catholic president was shot. Have you noticed that all of the presidents who've been shot have been either Republican or Catholic? Kind of seems like a trend. They keep doing that. Mr. Trump plans to return to Butler for a rally on October 5th. And he relives these attempts on his life at nearly every campaign stop. Lately, he's talked about how there have been assassination attempts against him, and the Times is judging him for that. Lately, he has taken to saying that he has one of the most dangerous professions in the world, more dangerous than race car driving or bull riding. It's interesting, actually, because Trump's right. It is a weird thing to say. It's more dangerous to be a president of the United States than to be a bull rider or a race car driver. But in terms of percentages, there have only been 46 presidents of the United States. And the number who have been shot, it really does. If you look at the percentages, you start to realize, you're like, actually, it is sort of one of the most dangerous jobs you could have. Especially being Donald Trump is one of the most dangerous things you could do. Telling the truth about the establishment. Having that establishment train all of its weapons on you. Yeah, that is actually pretty dangerous. So the New York Times is scoffing at this, but this is authentically true. Trump has bragged about the mortal danger in which he finds himself. The Times once again says condescendingly about a man who survived 2 near assassinations these past 2 months. Quote, they only go after consequential presidents, he says. Trump's used it as evidence of divine intervention, the New York Times says. Once again, condescendingly, quoting Trump as saying, God has now spared my life. It must have been God. Thank you. Not once, but it's twice, he said. Yeah, well, first of all, doesn't that convey a degree of selflessness on the part of Trump? For Trump to say that it wasn't by his own cunning movement, his own talents, his own spryness, that I've survived assassination attempts, like he's Neo in the Matrix dodging bullets. No, that's not what Trump's saying. Trump is saying that a higher power is responsible for him still being here. That endears people to him, by the way. People like to see that. It's not the version of Trump that the media tell you about at all. And here the New York Times is trying to use this against him. What a joke. He thinks God saved him. How awful these people are. And then they say that he's also used it as inspiration for set design. He decorated the stage at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee with images of his bloodied face. Did they decorate the stage? Corey, is my memory off? I don't remember seeing the stage decorated with his bloodied face. I remember seeing video stills from time to time during relevant events in the program where they would show pictures of this. And why wouldn't you? He had just survived the assassination attempt. It was the weekend before. In fact, the convention itself was up in the air whether or not it would continue. It immediately became, do we have this convention? Donald Trump was just shot in the head. Do we continue in Milwaukee this week? It was very touch and go for a moment. President Trump said, no, we'll continue. And in the minds of the American people, it was front and center. We were all thinking, my goodness, this man was just shot. And President Trump talked about it in his speech. You remember him hugging the jacket of Corey Comparator, his fireman's jacket on stage? The New York Times actually didn't spend any time on Corey here, not in this piece. They didn't mention Trump celebrating that man's life and what happened to him and his family. No mention of that. Instead, this is kind of a disgusting little hatchet piece that tries to reinterpret threats to Trump's life as Trump, being some sort of awful person for telling you about it. You know? They go on to say there has been a new assassination threat against him from Iran as retaliation for ordering the killing of the Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in early 2020, and some recent campaign events have been scaled back, modified, or canceled altogether. Trump wrote on Truth Social, they note, quote, I am surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever seen before, Trump said. Trump on Truth Social in the last 24 hours also said that he's had events that have been upended by the Biden administration. He wanted to have huge events, but they're being forced into these much smaller venues under the guise of this is the only way we can protect you. We can't protect you otherwise. So Trump's pointing out he feels like the Biden administration is trying to hem in his campaign, trying to prevent him from being in front of larger crowds, and then saying it's because of security precautions we're doing this. Trump doesn't buy it. He's like, that doesn't sound right to me. That doesn't sound right. And so that's the latest. You know, now the New York Times, they've in case you were wondering, you know, I did for a moment on July 13th, when Trump was shot, I did have this moment of thought that, man, the election's over. I honestly, later that day, I was like, how could it not be over? How could people see that and think to themselves, yeah, this should continue. We should have a big battle. The left is so crazy and has driven people to such madness that they're now taking actual shots at Donald Trump, the leading candidate for president. And I thought maybe the American people would be able to come together and say, this is unacceptable. He doesn't deserve this. I may not agree with him on everything, but shooting him in the head? No, I'm not for that. But that's not where we are. The media memory hold the entire event as quickly as they could. They've covered up for the Secret Service. They've acted like it's no big deal. They basically are pretending like it never happened. And they moved on. I was naive. I admit it. I was naive. I've seen these news cycles come and go. Really dramatic events come and go really quickly. And I always marvel at the speed with which the media quickly move on from the things that are politically inconvenient to them. It happened again. July 13th, Trump gets shot in the head. He stands up, has one of the most amazing moments in American history. Truly one of the most amazing moments in American history. If the history books in any way accurately reflect this era, they will depict that as remarkable, the way that he responded to that. And the media's already memory-told it. Kamala's got to win. We can't talk about that. In fact, if we're going to talk about it at all, we're going to write entire articles about how Trump is using it too much. Trump is discussing it too much. Oh, stop now. You were just shot in the head. It's not a big deal. The New York Times wags its finger at him. It's insanity. It's fine. All right, let's go to the phones. On line one, I have Alan calling in from Gambrills now. Alan, good afternoon, sir.
Hey, thank you for taking the call. It's interesting that the increased protection that Trump is now finally getting. It's interesting because there are other organizations that have realized that, you know what, if you're going to go forth and do things that are, well, contrary sometimes to the narrative, then maybe you got to protect these people. The Pope-mobile. Pope-mobile has been around for a lot of years, but Pope John Paul II was probably the most prominent that leveraged this because he was speaking truth to power. I know that there are some discussions about what the papacy and the Catholic Church is looking at right now and trying to balance things or whatever. But you know what? You got to protect people who are willing to speak truth.
And you got to protect people who are genuinely under threat. And obviously, Donald Trump is. President Trump is under constant threat. And he's just trying to campaign. And, you know, if the left really wanted to protect him, they'd be speaking out against all of this. They'd be fighting to restore the country to what it once was. But that's not what they're doing. They're downplaying the assassination attempts against him. And they're going right back to the same language that inspired Ryan Ruth to try and take a shot in the first place. That's what's actually happening. Thank you, Alan. Good call. Stay with us. It's 5:29. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 5:36 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Tim Walz is very nervous about facing off against J.D. Vance. He's just so nervous. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. It's so ridiculous. CNN's got a piece up today. And this is, as you might expect, the expectations game being played. They claim that Tim Walz is so nervous he may just wet his pants on stage. That's how nervous he is right now. They say the headline is, heading into the vice presidential debate, Tim Walz is fighting nerves. He's like, his teeth are chattering. I can't. J.D. Vance, he's so intimidating. Tim Walz is telling people he's just as nervous about facing J.D. Vance as he was the Sunday afternoon in August when he warned Kamala Harris in his running mate interview that he was a bad debater. Maybe more nervous, according to multiple people who've spoken to him. And the pressure is even higher when, for the first time in modern campaign history, the vice presidential debate Tuesday is likely to be the last marquee event before Election Day, with many voters still saying they don't know enough about Harris. It could be up to Walz to help convince them to trust a vice president he barely knew himself before she picked him. Talking to the aides who have coalesced around him in Minnesota and other supporters, Walz constantly comes back to how worried he is about letting Harris down, according to close to a dozen top campaign staffers. Oh, a dozen, a full dozen. Oh, they're all just speaking off the record, huh? They're speaking out of school. Is that what's happening? Corey, have you ever seen anything like this? A dozen of Kamala's campaign staffers all speaking in unison that Tim Walz is very nervous. Oh, shucks. He's just a bad debater, you know? He knows speak words good. He's going to have a really tough time tomorrow night. That's what they're saying. A dozen top campaign staffers and others who have been in touch with the governor and his team. He doesn't want Donald Trump to win. He doesn't want Harris to think she made the wrong choice. This is so pathetic. He's like, isn't this pathetic? Oh, shucks, Kamala. I don't want to let you down. He feels genuine contempt for and confusion over what he views as Vance's abandonment of their common roots. Garbage. Utter garbage from this guy. Is Vance a communist? Is Vance a Chi-Com? Is he a lover of Tiananmen Square? I don't think you two have common roots at all. Did Vance ever shoot people on their front porch with paintball guns during COVID? Did he do that? I don't think so. Did Vance's wife ever stick her head out the window to smell the burning of American cities just to enjoy the smell? I don't think that actually happened. No, I don't think you two share common roots at all. You're a whack job. He's a normal person. You're the guy who brags that none of your students could make it into Ivy League schools. None of my kids made it into Ivy League schools. Who does J.D. Vance think he is? I don't know. A guy who famously grew up in tough circumstances in Ohio, made it out of there, and is now trying to use his perch to improve the lives of the people he grew up with. That's who he is. Who are you? You're the guy who shoots your citizens with paintball guns. That's who you are. You're the one who stuffs tampons into the boys' room. That's who you are, Tampon Tim. You're the one who lets babies die on the operating table in your state after they are born alive following a failed abortion, and then you just let them die. And then when people notice, you tell the state to stop tracking the data. That's who Tim Walz is. He's grotesque. And he's a spaz, too. He's a what's the word? A buffoon, the CNN guy called him. Yeah. He's a spastic buffoon. And the two of them are going to be debating tomorrow night. Let me just remind you, as CNN insists, oh, he's so nervous. This is a guy who loves television cameras. This is a guy who auditioned on television to become Kamala Harris's running mate. He was plastered on all of the cable news networks trying to tell you how weird Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are. He was performing. He loves performing on camera. This is not a guy who's nervous about it. This is a man who craves it. And the reality, of course, of the campaign that he's in right now is that both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do not have a good story to tell. So they're trying not to tell you anything at all. They're trying to stay away from those cameras. Or if they're going to appear in front of them, they want to do it in highly scripted moments or in front of very obsequious, very friendly interviewers. Chit-chat sessions. So Tim Walz he's not nervous at all. This is just stupid expectations management that CNN is willing to carry hook, line, and sinker. They're falling for it. Oh, yeah, Tim Walz is very nervous. 4,000 people on the Kamala campaign told us. He's very nervous. He's worried he's going to let her down. The game plan here is, well, if expectations are a rock bottom, if Tim Walz can speak in complete English sentences tomorrow night, massive victory, he won the debate. And, of course, that's really stupid. The post-debate analysis is always very stupid because it is entirely reliant on pundits who drill down into, like, small little sections of the debate. I thought that moment was really important. I thought he really won the debate there. I thought he had the command of the facts. I thought blah, 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 blah. Oh, that was a really good comeback. Oh, he really prepared for that moment. And none of that matters. What did we learn from Kamala and Trump? What did we learn from that debate? It's the same lesson you get from all the debates, but we were reminded of that. The pundit class was saying, man, Kamala looked pretty good. She didn't look as stupid as we thought she was going to look. So therefore, Kamala won the debate, right? Expectations game. Low expectations for Kamala, high expectations for Trump. And when Kamala can exceed those rock bottom expectations, you say, oh, she won the debate. That's what the pundit class thought. But what was the actual takeaway from the debate? Can you pick a phrase? Is there anything that stands out? What was uttered in that debate that everybody remembered? The only thing. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people who live there. Right? Did I get that verbatim? I think that's right. And, of course, we have a massive, massive crisis of foreign nationals pouring into the country paid for by American taxpayers against their will by the Biden-Harris campaign, the Biden-Harris administration. So that attention was brought, boom, instantly into the minds of the American people, and they hate it. They hate the status quo. They don't like it. So then in the end, we're down to Trump's benefit. Trump had that win. It was ultimately, if you measure that debate by what media and what focus the American people took from it, it's Trump's victory. You got to be honest about that. It's tomorrow night. Tim Walz and J.D. Vance will square off in New York, and J.D. Vance has a real opportunity here to prosecute Tim Walz and Kamala Harris on stage and just rip this guy limb from limb, from goofy limb to goofy limb. And I'm rooting for him. I hope he does. I hope he does do that. But this stupid expectations game is hilarious. Oh, he's so nervous. Sure he is. Also, one of the reasons you don't hear anything from Tim Walz is because he has no idea what his campaign's positions are. None. They don't have actual positions. They just pretend to have positions. We're for no tax on tips. We're for border walls. Yeah, we want to bring down the cost of living. How? How do you want to bring down the cost of living? Kamala Harris was asked about this. How are we going to bring down the cost of living? She did a podcast where she was asked this very thing by two former NBA players, Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson. The name of the podcast is All the Smoke. And they said, hey, what's your economic plans? What are your economic plans? The same question she keeps getting asked, and then she keeps stepping on a rake every time she's asked about it. She has rake marks all over her face, just from every time she's been asked about this. Here she goes again, thwack.
Going from a show to a whole entire company, what is your economic plan moving forward for people who are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling for groceries and rent and homeowners?
So, look, I grew up, so my sister and I were raised by our mother. We lived for a long time in an apartment.
What is your plan for lowering costs for American citizens? So I grew up, my sister and I grew up with our mother, and we were raised in an apartment.
On top of a child care center. That child care center was actually owned by a woman who lived 2 doors down from us, Mrs. Shelton.
We're still not to how are you going to lower costs?
Who was, by all of our accounts and feelings, our second mother. She helped raise us.
We're now 40 seconds into this.
And so she was a small business owner. So I'll start with the small business, and congratulations on what you guys have done. I, from a child, knew who our small business owners are, right? I mean, you're...
What does that even mean? From a child, I knew who our small business owners are. What? How does that lower costs? Do you know all the small businesses? The ones who are suffering under the weight of your administration?
Business leaders, but you're also civic leaders. You take seriously your voice and how you can mentor, how you can...
You take seriously your voice and how you can mentor.
Grow, right? Communities and the sense of communities. I love our small businesses. And so a lot of my work...
She loves our small businesses. How far are we now? Oh, we're a full minute in.
In terms of building and growing the economy, has focused on small businesses. And my vision overall is we need to build an opportunity economy in which we increase opportunity
That's
for
a fun
all,
phrase.
including small business owners. So
they focus grouped that. Opportunity economy.
A lot of my work, even in the Senate, was about increasing access to capital through our small businesses and in particular through our community banks. So I've been...
How many times did she say small business in this answer? I've lost track. I didn't think to count, but it's a lot.
Responsible for billions of dollars more now going into our community banks, because they're in the community and then they know who's in the community.
That's right. Community banks, in case it was confusing, community banks are in the community and they know who's in the community because they're in the community. They're community banks.
So I've been responsible for billions of dollars more now going into our community banks because they're in the community and then they know who's in the community and where the talent is and who's doing good in the community, what the community wants.
The word of the day, community. Small business. So that was 1 minute and 36 seconds of nonsense. Did you notice? It was the podcast is actually called All the Smoke. That's all she gave us. That's all we got out of her. It was all just smoke. It was nothing. She was just rambling. And is this the clip where she adopts a black scent again? She's like trying to put on. It's a pose. This is she's rambling about her friends and her family, and Kamala Harris has a million different accents that she's constantly trying out, and none of them are authentic. None of them are good. They're just, she's really mailing this in.
Do you have people in your life who applaud your success? Do you have people in your life who you trust? Do you have people in your life who, when you trip and fall, they laugh with you and then they pick you up and push you back out there? There are people that you know who will be those people if you choose to have them. I am blessed to have an incredible family and incredible friends. My best friend from kindergarten is still one of my best friends.
That's crazy.
Right? Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
We used to go to the clubs and her father Seville.
Yeah.
She said in her father's Seville, in their Cadillac Seville. That's what she's saying? It's a Cadillac, right? The Seville? Yeah. Okay. So we used to go to clubs in the father's Seville. That's Kamala Harris. Just making it up as she goes along.
Yeah, that's dope. I love it.
We used to go to the clubs and heard Father Seville.
Yeah.
What a poser. What a complete poser
and
this
so
chick
I think
is.
that's part of it, right? Because you do need...
You're telling me, do people see through this? People see through this, right? When she does stuff like that, do people actually, is there a category of person who falls for that? Oh, man, she really connects with me. I feel it in my bones. I remember that. I, too, had a friend. We used to go in our Seville to the clubs.
The support to deal with it, and especially, I mean, people who are active on social media, it's hard out
tough.
there. It's tough. And you have to find things. Like, I love to cook.
Oh, so that's what Kamala is up to. By the way, there's a bunch of stuff coming out on Tim Walz right now about how connected he is to the Chi-Coms. A lot of stuff. James Comer just put out some information about this. Doesn't seem good for Tim Walz. A whistleblower has revealed to the Oversight Committee that the U.S. intelligence community has discovered some deep links between the CCP, the Communist Party of China, and Tim Walz. Kind of seems like a problem, doesn't it? If you're going to have a campaign that's only a couple weeks long, it's kind of hard to vet all of these things. Maybe that's the point. Let me share with you what the Oversight Committee has learned today. They say from a whistleblower about Tim Walz, who's set to debate against United States Marine J.D. Vance tomorrow on televisions and right here on radio all across the country. It's 5:50 now. All right, James Comer and the Oversight Committee out with a new subpoena today to the Biden administration. The Biden administration and the Department of Homeland Security, saying that a whistleblower has alerted them that there is a long-standing connection between the CCP and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Specifically, these whistleblower disclosures revealed the committee has learned of a non-classified Microsoft Teams group chat among DHS employees that contains information about Governor Walz that is relevant to the committee's investigation. The committee has also learned that further relevant information regarding Governor Walz has been memorialized in both classified and unclassified documents in the control of DHS. So now Comer and the Oversight Committee are demanding all of these papers because they want to get a hold of just how in bed with the CCP is this guy, how compromised is he. He wouldn't be the first Democrat governor compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. This happened in New York, and it may very well be happening with Tim Walz, the guy who loves China. He's been there, 30 times? He honeymoons there. He says he got married on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square in order to remember his own wedding date. He's crazy. Also, on that front, the Free Beacon now has a story up this afternoon. Alana Goodman saying that Tim Walz, headline, said he was in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. He was home in Nebraska, they say. They ran all of this information down, and they said he wasn't in China until later in that year. He wouldn't depart for China until August. He was at home in Nebraska during the relevant time period, May and June of 1989, according to local news reports at the time, showing him at home. So he lied about all of this. Not the first time. Guy likes to lie. He knows speak good. Maybe that's what it was, right? Was it Scott Jennings over at CNN? He knows speak good. Yeah. We'll see tomorrow night what he has to say for himself. We'll cover it all here on WMAL. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.